I was in 8th grade and I was playing basketball in a fall league in 1999, and my knee began to hurt really, really bad. At first, I kind of thought that it was just normal pain, normal soreness and stuff. And I went home and the pain continued. I told my mom, and my mom, she's a nurse. And of course, the typical mom response is just take a Tylenol and put some ice on it, everything will be fine. Well, the next couple of days, everything wasn't fine. I went from being able to run up and down a basketball court to where I couldn't even get out of a chair. My mom knew something was wrong. So we went to the doctor and he took some x-rays and he wasn't comfortable with what he saw. So he wanted to send us to a specialist. We went to the orthopedic doctor and he took another x-ray and he saw something that he did not like. What he saw was a shadow over my knee and over my growth plate. Something was growing. He never said that it was cancer, but he wrote down on a piece of paper what he thought it was. It was a tumor that could be malignant. My mom, of course, being in that field of study, dealing with patients dying all the time from cancer and from all of those things. And here I am, a 12-year-old, going through something that no 12-year-old should ever go through. When we came home from the doctor's office, I remember hearing my parents talk in the living room about what the doctor wrote down on that piece of paper. From the time we came back from the doctor to the time when we were going for the MRI, it was about a span of 2 weeks. I didn't realize the severity of the situation, but my parents knew that we had to believe God for something big. I remember them putting scripture verses up on the walls about how I would walk and not grow weary. I remember whenever I would go to bed at night, we would play music and tapes all about healing. They would place scripture verses on the mirror in the bathroom, in front of the toilet. Everywhere that we would look in the house, there was a reminder of faith. And I think that was the difference, because there was no doubt allowed in the house. I remember my parents started calling me Jonathan Nunes. I'd be sitting in the living room and they'd call me in for dinner and they wouldn't say, hey, Jonathan, dinner's ready. They'd say, Jonathan Nunes, it's time to come and get dinner. So it was a constant confession of what we believed. We were believing God for a new knee. So they called me Jonathan Nunes. And I remember going to bed and looking at the top of my ceiling, and there was a scripture verse hung on the top of my ceiling about how I would run and not grow weary, how I would walk and not faint. And so anytime there was opportunity for doubt, there was a constant reminder of what the word said about healing, about faith. So anytime we were at home, there was always that expectancy for a miracle. But when I went to school, it was different. I mean, I couldn't walk. So I would sit outside of PE class as an 8th grader and watch all of my classmates run and play. And I remember sitting on the track thinking, you know, I believe that I'm healed. I believe that all of this stuff that we're saying, all of these scripture verses that we're praying, all these things that are hanging on the doorposts, if it's true, then I should be able to run. And so as I sat there, I thought, you know what? I'm gonna run. So I borrowed my friend's PE uniform and put it on, borrowed some shoes, and I began to run. Every step that I took on the track, it was like the pain got less and less. In fact, I didn't even realize the pain at all. It was almost like I forgot about it. And by the time I finished the mile, I felt great. We went into the doctor's office and he looked at the MRI. He stuck the MRI up next to the old x-ray, and it was so clear of what happened. he said something along the lines of, well, in this picture, it's here, and in this picture, it's not. And I remember my mom just started bawling and crying, and because I didn't know the seriousness of what was going on, I just asked, what's there and what's not? And he said, well, if the MRI would have come back as a positive with a tumor, we may have had to amputate your leg. From that day on, everything was back to normal. My knees swelling went back down. I began taking the stairs again. God has been faithful to honor that one step of faith that I took that day in PE class. On this journey, we all have to believe God for something. We just have to walk it out by faith.